The massive alien ship hung in space above Earth like a dark mountain made of metal and hate. Admiral Zeth Kara stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the small blue planet below him with his 4 arms crossed over his chest. He had done this many times before to many worlds, and the result was always the same. The primitive species would see his fleet and surrender immediately, or they would fight and lose quickly. Either way, the Galactic Council always won. Behind him, 12 different alien species waited in silence. Each one represented a different part of the galaxy, and each one had sworn to follow the Council's laws. They had all been spacefaring for thousands of years, and they knew how these meetings always ended. The humans below them were barely able to travel between stars and had only discovered faster-than-light travel 6 months ago. This would be easy. On Earth, President Jake Morrison sat deep underground in a secure room beneath the White House. The emergency bunker was filled with his closest advisors and military leaders. Giant screens showed the alien fleet above them, and everyone in the room looked worried, except for the president himself. He seemed almost calm as he watched the alien ships position themselves around Earth. General Lisa Hayes stood next to him looking at the tactical displays. She had been a soldier for 30 years and had seen many dangerous situations, but nothing like this. The alien fleet had enough firepower to destroy every city on Earth within hours. Their technology was so far ahead of human science that Earth's most advanced weapons would be like throwing rocks at a tank. Secretary of Defense Kevin Wright paced back and forth behind them. He kept looking at his watch and checking the communications equipment. The aliens had been in orbit for 6 hours but had not made contact yet. The waiting was making everyone nervous except for President Morrison, who just sat quietly and watched. Dr. Kate Williams was there too, representing Earth's scientific community. She had spent her entire career studying theoretical physics and had helped develop humanity's first faster-than-light drive. Even she was amazed at what the alien ships could do. They had appeared out of nowhere using technology that seemed impossible. Their shields alone were beyond anything humans could build. The communication system suddenly activated and filled the room with strange alien voices, speaking in languages no human had ever heard. Then the translation system kicked in, and Admiral Zeth Kara's face appeared on the main screen. He was tall and gray with 4 arms and eyes that looked like black diamonds. When he spoke, his voice was cold and filled with authority. Primitive. Humans, he began, and his words were broadcast to every screen on Earth. Your species has broken 17 galactic laws just by building ships that can travel faster than light. You did this without permission from the Galactic Council. You did this without understanding the rules that govern all civilized species in this galaxy. President Morrison leaned forward in his chair, but said nothing. Around the world, billions of humans stopped what they were doing to listen to the aliens' words. Every television, radio, and computer was showing the same message. You have 72 Earth hours to surrender completely, Admiral Zeth Kara continued. You will destroy all of your weapons. You will give up all of your technology. You will accept that Earth is now under Council control. If you do not agree to these terms, we will destroy your planet and everyone on it. The transmission ended as suddenly as it had begun, leaving the bunker in complete silence. General Hayes was the first person to speak, and her voice was barely a whisper. Mr. President, our intelligence teams have been studying their ships since they arrived. Their technology is at least 500 years ahead of ours. Maybe more. We have no weapons that can hurt them and no defenses that can stop them. President Morrison nodded slowly, but the small smile on his face never disappeared. He stood up and walked to the main screen where he could see the alien fleet hanging in space above them like mechanical vultures waiting for something to die. General, did you notice something interesting about their message? He asked. Sir, they gave us 3 whole days to think about it. General Hayes looked confused. I don't understand, Mr. President. 3 days isn't very long to prepare for a war we can't win. President Morrison turned around to face everyone in the room. His smile was getting bigger, and there was something in his eyes that looked almost like excitement. "General, they didn't give us 3 days to prepare for war. They gave us 3 days to prepare for something much more interesting. Get me Dr. Williams and every scientist we have. Get me the military engineers and the computer experts. Get me everyone who knows how to build things and break things and figure out how things work." "What are you planning, sir?" Secretary Wright asked. "I'm planning to give the Galactic Council exactly what they asked for," President Morrison replied. "I'm planning to give them a demonstration of what humans can do when someone gives us a really interesting problem to solve." Dr. Kate Williams had not slept in 36 hours, but she felt more awake than she had ever been in her life. The laboratory around her buzzed with activity as dozens of the world's smartest scientists worked together on problems that should have been impossible to solve. She stood in front of a massive computer screen covered with equations and diagrams that looked like abstract art to anyone who was not a physicist. "Ryan, look at this," she called to Dr. Ryan Pierce, who was working at the next station. "If they're using standard quantum tunneling for their faster-than-light drives, then their entire navigation system should be vulnerable to feedback loops. We could theoretically hijack their computers just by sending the right kind of signal, Doctor." Pierce hurried over and stared at her calculations. His eyes grew wide as he understood what she was suggesting. "Kate, this is insane. You're talking about hacking alien technology that's centuries ahead of us." "No, I'm talking about understanding alien technology that's centuries old," she replied. "They've been using the same basic principles for so long that they've stopped looking for weaknesses. We've been using these principles for 6 months, and we've spent most of that time trying to break them." Across the country, similar scenes were playing out in research facilities and military bases. In Colorado, Colonel Amy Brooks was working with a team of engineers to modify human weapons in ways that should not have been possible. They had taken apart every piece of alien technology they could find from the past 6 months of first contact and were learning things that amazed them. "The aliens made one critical mistake," she explained to her team as they worked through the night. "They assumed we would try to fight them the same way everyone else has. They assumed we would build bigger guns and stronger shields and try to meet them head-on." Lieutenant Colonel Steve Martinez nodded as he looked at the strange device they were building. "So instead, we're going to do what humans do best. We're going to cheat." In space, Captain John Martinez commanded the experimental ship Silent Running, which had been designed using principles that no alien had ever seen before. It did not use shields or armor or powerful weapons. Instead, it used something much more dangerous. It used human creativity and the willingness to try things that everyone else thought were impossible. "Admiral Clark, this is Silent Running reporting for duty," he said into his communication system. "We're ready to pay our new friends a visit. Admiral." Susan Clark's voice came back immediately. "Remember, Captain, this is not about winning a fight. This is about showing them something they've never seen before. Are your crew ready?" Captain Martinez looked around his bridge at the young officers who had volunteered for what everyone knew was probably a suicide mission. They were all smiling. "Yes, ma'am. We're ready to make some new friends." Around the world, teams of scientists and engineers worked on projects that would have seemed like science fiction just days earlier. Professor Dan Foster had figured out how to modify human computers to interface with alien technology. Dr. Helen Murphy had discovered weaknesses in alien shield systems that even the aliens did not know existed. Every hour brought new discoveries and new possibilities. The most amazing thing was not what they were learning, but how fast they were learning it. Humans had always been good at adapting to new situations, but this was something different. The threat of extinction had awakened, something in humanity that had been sleeping for thousands of years. The same instincts that had helped early humans survive ice ages and predators were now being applied to problems involving quantum physics and interstellar warfare. President Morrison visited as many facilities as he could during those 3 days. He wanted to see for himself what his people were capable of when they were truly motivated. What he saw amazed him. Scientists who had spent their careers disagreeing with each other were now working together like members of the same family. Military officers who had never trusted civilians were taking orders from college professors. Everyone had put aside their differences because they understood that humanity's survival depended on doing the impossible. On the second day, President Morrison stood in Dr. Williams' laboratory watching her team work on something that looked like a combination of a computer and a telescope. "What exactly does this thing do?" he asked. "Mr. President, this device will let us see how the aliens think," she replied. "We've been studying their transmissions, and we've figured out how their computers process information. This will let us predict what they're going to do before they do it. And that will help us how..." Dr. Williams smiled, and for the first time in days, she looked excited instead of exhausted. "Mr. President, have you ever played chess against someone who could only think one move ahead?" By the end of the second day, teams all over Earth had made breakthroughs that should have taken years to achieve. They had learned how to detect cloaked alien ships. They had figured out how to jam alien communications. They had even discovered ways to turn alien weapons against themselves. Most importantly, they had learned that being technologically advanced was not the same thing as being smart. As the 70th hour approached, President Morrison prepared to address the world one final time before giving the aliens their answer. He stood before the United Nations Assembly with representatives from every country on Earth behind him. For the first time since the aliens had arrived, he looked completely confident. "My fellow humans," he began, "tomorrow we give the Galactic Council our answer. I want them to know that we appreciate their visit. We want them to know that they have taught us something very important about ourselves. They have reminded us that humans work best when we're facing impossible odds." He paused and looked directly into the camera that was broadcasting his words to the alien fleet above. "Admiral Zeth Kara, I believe you and your friends are going to be very surprised by what we show you tomorrow. We hope you enjoy the demonstration." Admiral Zeth Kara stood on the bridge of his flagship watching the time count down to the moment when the humans would either surrender or be destroyed. He had done this exact same thing to 47 different worlds, and the result was always predictable. The primitive species would either broadcast their surrender immediately, or they would launch a desperate attack that would be crushed within minutes. The appointed hour arrived, and Zeth Kara waited for the human response. His weapons were charged and ready to turn Earth into glowing ash if the humans chose to resist. Around him, his officers prepared for what they expected would be a very short battle. Instead of a surrender broadcast or a military attack, the aliens received something completely unexpected. A simple message appeared on every screen in the Galactic Council fleet. It was short and polite and written in perfect galactic standard language. "The people of Earth cordially invite the Galactic Council to attend a demonstration. Please observe." Before Admiral Zeth Kara could ask what kind of demonstration the humans meant, his tactical officer shouted a warning that made everyone on the bridge freeze in terror. "Sir, we have an unknown contact directly beneath our hull. Distance 0 meters. It just appeared out of nowhere." The main screen switched to show the underside of the massive flagship, and there, floating impossibly close to the ship's armor, was a small human vessel. It should not have been able to get that close without being detected by dozens of different sensor systems. It should not have been able to penetrate the shields that protected the ship. Most importantly, it should not have been able to exist in the same space that the flagship was occupying. Captain John Martinez's voice came through the communication system sounding cheerful and relaxed. "Greetings, Admiral Zeth Kara. That's a beautiful ship you have there. Very impressive engineering. Mind if we take a closer look at how it works?" Admiral Zeth Kara tried to order his weapons to fire, but discovered that they would not respond. His shields reported that they were functioning perfectly, but somehow the human ship was inside them. His sensors showed that there was nothing there, but his eyes could clearly see the enemy vessel. "This is impossible. he whispered. Actually, it's just improbable, Captain Martinez replied. We've learned some interesting things about your technology in the past 3 days. Did you know that your shields work by creating a barrier in normal space, but they leave gaps in quantum space? We just learned how to step sideways into those gaps. Before Admiral Zeth Kara could respond, his communications officer reported something even more disturbing. Sir, we're receiving similar transmissions from every ship in the fleet. The humans have somehow infiltrated all of our vessels simultaneously. The main screen divided into dozens of smaller displays, each showing a different human ship that had appeared inside the alien formation. Commander Rachel Stone's voice came from the heavy cruiser Defiant as she reported her position inside an alien engine room. Admiral, this is Commander Stone reporting from inside your primary fusion reactor. I have to say your security systems are really quite inadequate. We walked right through them. Captain Alex Roberts transmitted from the destroyer Relentless, which was somehow occupying the same space as an alien battleship. Admiral Roberts here. We're currently sitting in your ammunition storage bay. Very organized, by the way. We appreciate good organization. All across the alien fleet, similar reports came in. Human vessels had appeared inside alien ships without triggering a single alarm or defense system. They had bypassed shields that were supposed to be impenetrable and sensors that were supposed to detect everything. Worst of all, they had done it without using any technology that the aliens could understand. Admiral Zeth Kara's mind struggled to process what was happening. His fleet was the most advanced military force in the galaxy. His ships used technology that had been perfected over thousands of years of warfare. His defenses had never been penetrated by any enemy in the history of galactic civilization. How did you do this? He demanded. Dr. Elizabeth Carter's voice answered him from somewhere inside his own ship, though no human should have been able to board without being detected. Admiral, we've been studying your transmissions for 72 hours. The problem with having standardized technology across 12 different species is that you all share the same vulnerabilities. Suddenly, Dr. Carter appeared on his bridge not through any kind of teleportation or advanced technology, but simply by walking through a force field that should have stopped her. She was a small woman with gray hair and thick glasses who looked like she should have been teaching physics at a university instead of infiltrating alien warships. Gentlemen, she said politely while adjusting her glasses, I hope you don't mind the intrusion. We wanted to demonstrate something important before we give you our official response to your ultimatum. Admiral Zeth Kara's secondary arms began to twitch with rage and confusion. This is impossible. Our technology is thousands of years more advanced than yours. Our shields alone should have prevented any of this. Your technology is very impressive, Dr. Carter agreed, but it's also very predictable. You see, you've been spacefaring for so long that you've forgotten how to innovate. We've been spacefaring for exactly 6 months, and we've spent most of that time figuring out how to break things. The view screen changed to show images from all across the alien fleet. Human teams were calmly dismantling alien technology with disturbing efficiency. Engineer Tony Clark had completely reverse-engineered a plasma cannon and was explaining how it worked to his teammates. Dr. Maria Gonzalez had somehow turned alien shield generators into massive speakers that were now broadcasting human music throughout the entire fleet. You cannot defeat the entire Galactic Council, Commander Veltar of the Crystalline Hegemony insisted from his position at the tactical station. Dr. Carter smiled and shook her head. Commander, we're not trying to defeat you. We're trying to teach you something that we think you've forgotten. Admiral Zeth Kara watched in growing horror as human teams continued to demonstrate their complete mastery over technology that should have been impossible for them to understand. They were not just hacking alien systems. They were improving them. Chaos had completely taken over the Bridge of the Eternal Judgment, and Admiral Zeth Kara found himself in a situation he had never experienced in 300 years of military service. His supposedly invincible fleet was being systematically taken apart by a species that had barely learned to travel between stars. Worse than that, the humans were doing it without firing a single shot or showing any sign of hostility. Commander Veltar of the Crystalline Hegemony spoke in rapid clicking syllables that the translation system could barely keep up with. This is not possible. How did they penetrate our dimensional barriers? How did they bypass systems that have protected us for millennia? How are they doing things that our own scientists say cannot be done? Dr. Elizabeth Carter stood calmly in the center of the alien bridge, looking completely at ease, despite being surrounded by 12 different species that could have killed her instantly. She adjusted her glasses and smiled at the confused aliens around her. "The answer to your question is really quite simple," she said. "You've all been using the same technology for so long that you've stopped questioning whether it actually works the way you think it does. We've been questioning everything from the moment we first saw your ships." Admiral Zethkara's forearms trembled with barely controlled rage. "You are insects compared to the civilizations represented in this fleet. We have been traveling between stars since before your species discovered fire. Our technology is based on scientific principles that your primitive minds cannot possibly comprehend." "Your technology is indeed very advanced," Dr. Carter agreed. "But advanced and innovative are not the same thing. You've spent thousands of years perfecting the same basic concepts. We've spent 3 days figuring out why those concepts don't work as well as they could." On the view screen, new images began to appear, showing human teams throughout the alien fleet. Engineer Paul Davis had found a way to increase the efficiency of alien fusion reactors by 30%, simply by adjusting the magnetic field configurations. Physicist Dr. Sophie Turner had discovered that alien computer systems could be made to run twice as fast by changing the way they processed quantum data. "This is still impossible," insisted Fleet Commander Thyvan of the Epsilon Collective. "Even if you somehow understood our technology, you could not improve it so quickly. Our greatest scientists have worked for centuries to achieve the efficiency levels you claim to have exceeded in hours." Dr. Carter nodded thoughtfully. "That's exactly the problem. Your greatest scientists have been working within the same framework. For centuries, they've been trying to perfect existing solutions instead of looking for completely new approaches. We don't have centuries of established thinking to hold us back." Captain Alex Roberts appeared on the communication screen from his position inside an alien battleship. "Dr. Carter, we finished our analysis of their weapons systems. It's fascinating. They're using exactly the same targeting algorithms that we would expect based on their known technology. No surprises at all. No innovation. No creativity." "Thank you, Captain," Dr. Carter replied. "Admiral Zethkara, your weapons are indeed very powerful, but they're also completely predictable. We've been studying how you fight by analyzing historical records of your previous conquests. You always use the same tactics in the same order. You never adapt to unexpected situations because you never encounter unexpected situations." The alien. Admiral's mind reeled as he tried to process what the human was telling him. His fleet represented the combined military might of 12 advanced civilizations. His tactics had been refined through thousands of years of successful campaigns. His weapons had conquered worlds across half the galaxy. "You are trying to tell me that experience is a weakness," he said. "Not experience," Dr. Carter corrected. "Complacency. You've been so successful for so long that you've stopped learning. You've stopped questioning. You've stopped innovating. That's not a weakness. That's a tragedy." New reports continued to flood in from throughout the alien fleet. Human teams led by brilliant individuals like Chief Engineer Lisa Park and Systems. Analyst Kevin O'Brien had found flaws and inefficiencies in alien technology that the aliens themselves had never noticed. More importantly, they had found ways to fix those problems using principles that were considered impossible by galactic science. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, who had been responsible for cracking the alien dimensional barriers, appeared on another screen. "Dr. Carter, we've completed our analysis of their faster-than-light navigation systems. The good news is that they work exactly the way their textbooks say they should work." The bad news is that those textbooks are about 2,000 years out of date. Explain, please, Dr. Carter requested. They're still using linear quantum tunneling, which means they can only travel in straight lines between predetermined points. We've figured out how to use non-linear quantum surfing, which means we can go anywhere we want by riding the quantum foam itself. It's like the difference between riding a train and riding a surfboard. Admiral Zethkara listened to this exchange with growing horror. The humans were not just claiming to understand alien technology. They were claiming to have surpassed it completely. Worse than that, they were explaining their achievements in terms that even he could understand. This conversation is pointless, he declared. Even if everything you claim is true, you are still vastly outnumbered. This fleet contains the military power of 12 civilizations. You cannot possibly resist us all. Dr. Carter smiled again, and this time there was something almost pitying in her expression. Admiral, we're not trying to resist you. We're trying to help you understand something that you seem to have forgotten. And what is that? That the galaxy is a very big place and there are still new things to discover in it. Your civilizations have become so focused on maintaining control that you've stopped exploring. You've stopped learning. You've stopped growing. President Morrison's face suddenly appeared on every screen in the alien fleet. Behind him stood the entire human leadership, including Secretary of Defense Linda Marsh and Science Advisor Dr. Chris Patel. For the first time since the crisis began, he looked completely confident and relaxed. Admiral Zethkara, he said, I want to thank you for the most educational 3 days in human history. You've taught us something very important about the galaxy we're about to explore. President Morrison's image dominated every screen in the Galactic Council fleet, and his words were being transmitted to the homeworlds of 12 different civilizations. Behind him, the entire human government stood united in a way that had seemed impossible just 3 days earlier. The crisis had brought out something in humanity that even they had not known existed. Admiral Zethkara, the president continued, you asked us to surrender our weapons and our technology. You asked us to accept that we are inferior to the civilizations you represent. I want to show you why we cannot do that. The view screen changed to display a massive holographic projection that filled the space between the human and alien fleets. It showed detailed schematics, not just of the Galactic Council ships, but of their home worlds, their defensive networks, and their entire military infrastructure. Every secret facility, every hidden weapon, every classified technology was laid bare for everyone to see. Admiral Zethkara felt his blood turn cold as he recognized systems and locations that were supposed to be completely unknown to anyone outside. The highest levels of galactic government. This is classified information. How could you possibly have access to this data? We don't have access to it, President Morrison replied calmly. We created it. Over the past 72 hours, our teams have analyzed everything about your civilizations using nothing but observation logic and mathematics. We didn't hack your computers or steal your secrets. We simply watched how you behave and figured out the rest. Dr. Jennifer Walsh stepped forward to explain. Mr. President is being modest. What we actually did was apply basic human curiosity to problems that the aliens stopped thinking about centuries ago. When you assume something is impossible, you stop looking for ways to make it possible. When you assume something is perfect, you stop looking for ways to improve it. Captain Nicole. Shaw appeared on another screen from her position aboard the research vessel Horizon. Admiral, we've spent 3 days learning everything about how your species think and fight and build. The fascinating thing is that you're all incredibly predictable. You use the same strategies, the same technologies, and even the same thought. Patterns that you used 1,000 years ago. Impossible, Commander Veltar insisted. Our civilizations have evolved far beyond anything your primitive species could comprehend. Your civilizations have stagnated, Dr. Ashley Kim corrected from her position in the alien computer core. You've become so comfortable with being superior that you've forgotten how to adapt. You've forgotten how to learn. Most importantly, you've forgotten how to be surprised. The holographic display shifted to show real-time analysis of the alien fleet's capabilities. Human teams had not only figured out how every system worked, but had identified thousands of improvements that could be made. Engineer Nathan Brooks demonstrated how alien shield generators could be made 50% more efficient. Physicist Dr. Maria Santos showed how alien weapons could be modified to be both more powerful and more accurate. You could have destroyed our entire fleet, Admiral Zethkara whispered as the scope of human capabilities became clear. We could have, President Morrison agreed. Our teams found 17 different ways to turn your own weapons against you. Dr. Patrick Chen's group figured out how to reverse the polarity of your shield generators, which would have turned them into massive explosives. Dr. Rachel Kim discovered how to create feedback loops in your computer systems that would have shut down your entire fleet. Secretary of State Kevin Wright stepped forward. But destroying you would have taught us nothing and gained us nothing. We're not interested in conquest, Admiral. We're interested in something much more valuable. And what is that? Knowledge, growth, the chance to learn from civilizations that have been exploring the galaxy for millennia, the opportunity to share what we've discovered with species that might benefit from a fresh perspective. The alien admiral's mind struggled to process what he was hearing. In 300 years of military service, he had never encountered a species that could have destroyed his fleet but chose not to. He had never met beings who were more interested in learning than in winning. Most disturbing of all, he had never faced an enemy that treated him with genuine respect while demonstrating complete superiority. Dr. Chris Patel, who had become humanity's lead scientific coordinator, appeared on the main screen. Admiral, your species and the others in the Council have achieved something remarkable. You've created a stable galactic civilization that has lasted for thousands of years. But stability and growth are not the same thing. You've stopped evolving because you've stopped facing real challenges. You are saying we have become weak. No, Dr. Patel replied. You've become comfortable. Comfort is the enemy of progress. Fear keeps you sharp. Uncertainty keeps you learning. Challenge keeps you growing. You've eliminated all of those things from your lives. Captain John Martinez transmitted from his position deep inside the alien flagship. Admiral, we've been studying your crew, and we've noticed something interesting. Your people are incredibly skilled at operating the technology. They have, but they show no curiosity about how it actually works. They follow procedures without questioning them. They accept limitations without testing them. The truth of what the humans were saying began to sink in for Admiral Zethkara and his officers. They had indeed become so focused on maintaining their technological advantage that they had stopped trying to advance it. They had become so comfortable with their superiority that they had stopped questioning whether they deserved it. What do you want from us? The Admiral asked. President Morrison smiled. We want to learn from you, and we want you to learn from us. We want to show you what the galaxy looks like when you approach it with fresh eyes and an open mind. We want to remind you what it feels like to discover something completely new. The holographic display changed one final time to show images of human and alien teams working together on projects that neither species could have completed alone. The future that President Morrison was describing was not one of conquest or surrender, but of genuine partnership between civilizations that had different strengths and different perspectives. The choice is yours, Admiral, President Morrison concluded. You can try to destroy us and lose everything we could teach each other. Or you can accept that maybe after thousands of years of believing you knew everything about the galaxy, there are still a few things left to discover. 3 weeks after the Galactic Council had demanded Earth's surrender, Admiral Zethkara found himself in a situation that would have been unimaginable a month earlier. He was sitting across a conference table from President Morrison aboard a space station that had been built in Earth's orbit using a combination of human innovation and alien technology. For the first time in his 300-year military career, he was genuinely curious about what would happen next. You could have destroyed our entire fleet, he said again, as if he still could not quite believe it. Your people had found ways to turn our own weapons against us, and we never even knew you were there. Why did you choose not to fight, President?" Morrison leaned back in his chair and considered the question carefully. "Admiral, what would we have gained by destroying you? Your ships would have been gone, but we would have learned nothing about who you are or why you came here. Your civilizations would have marked us as a threat and eventually sent larger fleets to finish what you started. Most importantly, we would have missed the opportunity to make some very interesting new friends." The human delegation included representatives from every major nation on Earth. Secretary of State Kevin Wright sat next to General Lisa Hayes, who had commanded Earth's defenses during the crisis. Dr. Kate Williams and her team of scientists occupied one side of the table while alien representatives from 12 different species sat on the other. It was the most diverse gathering in galactic history, and somehow it was working. "Your species confuses us," admitted Counselor Thiven of the Epsilon Collective. "Every civilization we have encountered has responded to superior force in predictable ways. They either surrender immediately or fight until they are destroyed. You did neither. You found a third option that we did not know existed." Dr. Nathan Brooks, who had become humanity's lead xenobiologist, smiled at the alien counselor. "The third option has always existed. You just stopped looking for it. When you assume there are only two ways to solve a problem, you limit yourself to those two solutions. When you assume anything is possible, you start finding solutions that nobody else ever thought of." The negotiations that followed had been unlike anything in galactic diplomatic history. Instead of terms of surrender or conditions of membership, the humans had proposed something completely different. They wanted to establish Earth as an innovation center where established galactic technologies could be challenged and improved by fresh perspectives. "Let me understand this correctly," said Fleet Commander Veltar. "You want us to give you access to our most advanced technologies so that you can find ways to improve them. And in exchange, you will share these improvements with all member civilizations." "That's exactly right," confirmed Secretary Wright. "We're not interested in keeping our discoveries secret or using them to gain advantage over anyone. We want to help everyone in the galaxy advance together." The alien representatives had spent weeks trying to find the trap in humanity's proposal. Their experience told them that no species would freely share technological advantages with potential competitors. Their logic suggested that the humans must be planning some kind of deception or betrayal. Their analysis of human behavior over the past month suggested that both their experience and their logic might be wrong. Captain Nicole Shaw, who now commanded the joint human-alien research vessel Horizon, transmitted a report from her mixed crew. "Council members, this is Captain Shaw reporting from our first joint mission. I'm happy to report that human and alien crew members are working together better than anyone expected. We've already made 3 significant discoveries that neither species could have achieved alone. Admiral Susan Clark had been chosen to represent Earth's military interests, and she had found herself working closely with alien commanders who had initially seen her as a primitive barbarian. What we've discovered is that different perspectives lead to different solutions. When you've been solving problems the same way for thousands of years, you stop seeing other possibilities. When you're solving problems for the first time, you have to try everything." The breakthrough had come when Dr. Jennifer Walsh demonstrated her new approach to faster-than-light travel to a group of alien engineers. Instead of using the linear quantum tunneling that had been standard for millennia, she had developed a technique that allowed ships to ride the quantum foam itself. The aliens had watched in amazement as human vessels performed maneuvers that their own physics textbooks said were impossible. "How long have you known that this was possible?" asked the chief engineer of the crystalline hegemony. "About 2 weeks," Dr. Walsh replied. "We started working on it after we realized that your current methods were unnecessarily limited. It took us a while to figure out why your scientists thought it couldn't be done." And why did our scientists think it couldn't be done? Because they never tried to do it. They accepted the limitations of existing technology instead of questioning whether those limitations were real. The final agreement established humanity as a probationary member of the Galactic Council with a unique mandate. Earth would serve as the galaxy's center for technological innovation and creative problem-solving. Human teams would be embedded with alien civilizations to help them rediscover the art of questioning established assumptions. In exchange, alien scientists would teach humans the accumulated knowledge of thousands of years of galactic exploration. President Morrison stood before the assembled delegates as the agreement was formally signed. This is not just a treaty between civilizations. This is a promise that we will never stop learning from each other, that we will never stop questioning what we think we know, that we will never stop looking for better ways to explore this amazing galaxy we all share. Admiral Zeth Kara added his signature to the document and found himself smiling for the first time in decades. President Morrison, I must admit that when I first saw your planet, I expected this to be a very routine conquest. I am grateful that you proved me wrong. The ceremony concluded with a simple image that was broadcast throughout the galaxy. President Morrison and Admiral Zeth Kara shook hands in the observation deck of Unity Station, with Earth spinning slowly behind them. The caption translated into every known galactic language read simply, "Partners." But perhaps the most significant change was visible in Admiral Zeth Kara himself. The ancient warrior who had conquered dozens of worlds now looked forward to each new day with the curiosity of a student. He had rediscovered something he had not felt in centuries. He had rediscovered the joy of learning something completely new. The Galactic Council had demanded Earth's surrender, and instead they had found something far more valuable. They had found teachers who could remind them that the universe was still full of mysteries waiting to be solved.